Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you know what you did. You hit the play button, which means something great is getting ready to happen in your life. We are here, whether it's just myself and a guest. This show has been all about getting you through the moment. Understand you're not going through life alone. There's situations, there's people out there that are here to serve you and help you when you're going through rough times. So, yet again, we have an absolutely fantastic guest. Her name is Miss Catherine McCourt, and she is the founder of a company named Fearless Future. All that being, well, Catherine, before I get too into the intro, welcome to the show. How you doing today? Because I can make intros long, so I'm learning along the way to make sure before I get going too much, we make sure I bring the guest on before I get too fired up.
Awesome. Well, nice to meet you, Aswan. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And this show has always been there's been quite a few business owners and life coaches that have come on this show and have dropped a ton of value, and they're always welcome when it comes to just being a life coach and being someone that wants to help. And one of the things that I've learned just through working with several life coaches and business owners is there's certain things that they grew up not particularly liking, or there's a certain thing that they have in their background, there's a certain desire of something that they want to fix. So I think the best way, Catherine, to start off the conversation is just talk to us a little bit about your background, kind of your upbringing, and what did you kind of see that pushed you in the direction where you want to like make a living off helping other people build their businesses and helping them get their own shit together. So talk us through that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, short and sweet. So I grew up, you know, two siblings, actually, sorry. So there's three of us in my family,
In
two
Canada?
girls and a boy. Yes, in Canada. I grew up in just outside of Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
I had access to the city because my grandparents lived in the city and some cousins and that, but we lived just 30 minutes outside, in this really beautiful suburb. It's on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a place where you meet friends when you're 5 years old and they're still your friends today.
Sure.
So it was really nice to grow up in a smaller community, I guess. So we had a lot of fun as kids. But I think, to your point about, well, what led you to life coaching and that, I think throughout my whole life, I've always seeked out things that were very creative. Like I loved to write, I loved drawing, not that I'm any good at it, but I did
Mhm.
it.
That's creative.
um,
Yeah, you don't have to be great at it. I teach at a school named the Center for Creative Education, and it's actually an art integrated school. So we use
mm,
the arts, we use the creativity to engage the kids in learning math, social studies, science, and those kinds of subjects. So again, there's not great drawers per se, but engaging the creativity, like you said, is something that sparks a curiosity that makes them want to learn more. So.
Yes, I think that's brilliant. I mean, perfectly said. Like people don't have to be artists. They don't have to be perfect at what they're doing, but if they're enjoying what they're doing, that's the key. That's the goal. And it gets their brains working in a very different, inspirational way,
Right.
than if they're not being creative.
Exactly.
So, for myself, just looking around and also wanting as a child, we all want acceptance. We all want to be believed in. We all want people to value what we do. And I often looked around and I would see people, and I got the feeling, and maybe this is just my own assumption clearly, but thinking of, they have so much potential. Why are they doing this? And why aren't they doing this? Or as I got older, certainly in your 20s, when you're trying to figure everything out and like career and you're out of school and all this stuff, and you're wondering like why people take certain paths versus others when you so clearly could see them like exploding in an area in their life versus taking the route that they took.
Right.
And so I guess the biggest thing for me, or the foundational thing for me to becoming a coach, was just I hate seeing wasted potential. And for some people, it's a choice that they make, and it's not they're wasting their potential. They just found something else that really triggered them, that made them feel still more valuable or whatever in their life. But I still feel like there's so much untapped potential in people, that just maybe didn't have someone to believe in them. Maybe they steered from it because they were afraid of taking a leap in a new direction. Maybe they just feared the fact that they didn't even know how to do it, or if they had no experience or knowledge in an area,
Yeah.
then why should I go for it? So I would say that certainly the wasted potential is really kind of the key thing for me. And I love personal growth and people who are engaged in that and open to that. I think no matter what expert you are, there's always room to learn. There's always room to grow. So I coach, people who are just starting out, maybe building a business, and I also to also work with people who are very well seasoned. And it just really shows you that there's so much potential for people to tap into at any level.
What would you say would be some examples of people not the things that tugged on your heartstrings of people not doing everything that they can be doing? Like for I'll give you an example. I'm thinking because as you're talking, I teach. I'm out here in West Palm Beach, Florida, and South Florida, and there are a lot of ladies out here who are great, just great with kids, and they do a lot of great things when it comes to the teaching, but they didn't grow up in the area and they're not English isn't their main speaking language. So instead of them wanting more, they kind of settle into a situation where they're comfortable and they're not wanting to move up forward. In fact, I'm thinking of this one lady in particular who I thought was amazing with kids. And one of my goals is to actually open up my own school. And I asked
Mm.
her next goal is, and she goes, well, maybe work. And this isn't going, I'm not taking any shots at anybody who worked at the post office, but her main goal was to go work for the post office. And I'm like,
Okay,
you
yeah.
have so much talent with kids. You have so much ability. Why not make that the goal or things like that? So to that, can you provide any examples in which you may have helped someone unlock that mindset of because I'm from a certain area, I don't have the ability to get, like you said, what exactly or reach your full potential?
Hmm. Oh, there's quite
And you don't have any
a
time.
few stories I have. Sorry,
There's no
sorry.
time limits, by the way, so you can, have you don't have to worry about rushing any answers or anything like that.
Yeah, I think, like even me saying like it's not like I ever had everything figured all out, right? And even though I was seeing this potential in other people, didn't mean that I even saw at the time like my own potential. So I'm not here to say that like I've always had it all figured out or whatever. I've certainly been through the ringer
Right.
of trying to figure out where I wanted to land. But looking at people, like I'll just give you sort of like examples of, people who were very talented in music and
Mhm,
maybe didn't pursue it because music is a really hard industry, right? Unless you find that real path of like where you are going to make money, because we all have to make money to survive and live. That's
mhm,
just a reality of life. And not pursuing something like that when seeing someone so talented in it, not pursue it in the level that I thought that they could pursue it was,
mhm,
you know, uh, maybe disheartening to me in a way. But they've found there are other ways of how they've incorporated throughout their life. So it's not that they've given up music; they just maybe didn't make it their first and foremost
mhm,
career. Another would be someone looking for a change in career and thinking, "Well, I've only ever worked in this industry.
mhm,
I don't know that I could jump into an industry that I'm more passionate about because I don't seem to have the skill set." And it's
mhm,
about just dissecting that and saying, well, actually, you do have skill sets that could be transferable to these under other industries. So, um, I've worked with a lot of people in that context, from wanting to make a career change, but feeling like they had nothing to start with and they would be starting from scratch again, starting a whole new path. When in reality, they were actually bringing possibly more to what could be really valuable to that new industry or that new role. Um, Gosh, I don't know. There's really so
mhm.
many things that I can think of. Those two really stand out, just like people who are really creative and passionate and they don't follow it because they think they just won't make money.
Right.
It's about finding out how do you make money from it,
Right.
that potentially could get you on the right path. And then it's that career change. A lot of people want career change because they feel like they want to go after something they're more passionate about. And maybe they hold back because of, like I said, feeling like they don't have the proper skills or the proper um, foundation for it. But really, you need to kind of decant on it and decipher what skills do you actually have or what could even be more valuable for those areas. So that's kind of more advice, I think, or insight
But
that I've
so
noticed from working with people.
the thing is, what I've learned is a lot of the things that you are saying is learned in the home. It's learned based on the way a person grows up. Like I say it all the time.
Mm,
so blessed to have a two-parent household, so blessed to have an older sister that was very supportive of the goals that I had. And they were especially my father and my mother did a great job in pointing out certain elements. So I walked out of my door every day
Mm,
knowing that I can do a lot of great things. I didn't have to be a victim of circumstance. I didn't have to be just your typical black kid, thug and hat backwards, pants sag. I didn't have to be that because my parents were there. Even though I went through that phase, my parents were there to reinforce, hey, there's other avenues and there's other things you could be doing besides being a rapper or being a professional athlete. So I'm bringing all that up because I'm curious now when it came to we'll go back a little bit to your upbringing, but more so when
mhm.
you started transitioning from 18 to now adulthood, when you kind of fall on those lessons that you learn in the home. How was that transition for you? Because you don't wake up one morning and say, okay, fearless with future. It happens. There's obviously some, you may have saw some college, like what was college? What was the college process like? What were all of that situation like for you to where it says, okay, let's get this thing going?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, like anyone's story, right? You get old enough and you've got a lot of
Yeah, a
a
lot.
lot of stories
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
share.
I know
Um,
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I can tell you that my upbringing was, I had parents from a generation that didn't show a lot of emotion. They didn't talk about a lot of things. Finances were private. You don't discuss that with people. Your
Right.
emotions, like, don't worry about it. Just get over it. Move on, move on. You're
Mhm.
tougher than that. So that's kind of the background that I came from. So very loving home, but very, um, just you get knocked down and you get back up. That
That's
was
back
kind of
up.
thing. There
Yep.
was no room to cry and worry or whatever.
Okay.
But also, on the flip side of that, when I started to consider, like, what am I going to do in school, I really wanted to go for something creative. I actually wanted to go into graphic design originally.
Okay.
And my father was the one who was like, no, this isn't, you're not going to make money doing that. Like, what even is that? Like,
Well, that actually that I got to pause you there because this was I'm assuming this was before social media, before graphic design.
yes.
So you were already thinking above the curve or ahead the curve when it comes to that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, thanks. I guess so.
So I don't know if you planned that, but yeah, now graphic design is making some serious money now. Now people are foregoing college and just studying to become a graphic designer because of social
Yes.
media, because of the everyone needs a laptop and everyone needs access to the internet. So again, I'm not sure if that was something you had thought of, but you definitely were ahead of the curve when it comes
It-
to what you were going to be studying or picking what you're going to study.
yes, it was such a new thing in school for sure. And where that came from for me is, like, I always loved fashion and fashion magazines. And so I considered, well, how would I work for a fashion magazine one day? And I thought, well, I love layouts.
Mhm,
I've always been very, like, I don't know what you would call it. Well, I'm very visual, but
mhm,
also very spatial. Like, I like spaces to be neat. I like certain things symmetrical. I like whatever. So I started to think, well, oh, graphic design. I learned about this new thing,
mhm.
and realized, like, oh, well, magazine layouts require you to use this. Well, at that time, to me, it was a newfound thing, graphic design, to do the layouts for the magazines and that. And that's sort of where it came
These are
from.
hard
But
just so that any young Gen Z listeners, physical copy magazines, they did exist. Okay. Just want to make sure
yes,
out there. It wasn't everything wasn't digital back then. There was actual physical magazines. Let me see if I have one here. Yeah, actually, I'll use one book. Yeah, there's physical copies of stuff.
exactly. Yeah, the hard copy.
Hard copy. Right, right. Hold on,
There's
just
something about sitting with a coffee and having a magazine in your hand, you know? I
one
don't
of those
know. Or
things,
if you're
one
flying
of those,
somewhere,
right.
like, yeah,
There is. That's
exactly.
why I just thought I was traveling a lot the past 2 weeks, and I would turn off my phone purposely to read a book, to physically
Ah,
read a book, because that's the time I have. You can listen to digital stuff, you can play with these things all the other time. Give me my time to sit down and physically read a book, highlight it, the whole thing. I think that's so important when you're talking thought leadership because I don't know. It's for me personally. I guess I'm old school, but I love that feeling of
I'm
actually
with you.
yeah, I like that. So anyway, I
I'm
like
with you.
keep cutting you
Yeah,
off.
all
Anyway,
good.
keep talking.
Oh, good. So yeah, so I think just going back to, like, where I was, like, thinking about college, and that my father was very big on, you should go into business because if you have a business degree, you really can do anything.
Hmm.
And he didn't have a degree. My parents didn't have college degrees. They didn't come from that. They just were very hardworking parents. My father ended up getting a great job. He worked at Xerox for 25 years.
Okay.
And so that's sort of where that mentality came from. And then I decided, all right, I'll do it. And then he sort of sold me on the, well, business has marketing, and marketing is very creative and can be, and maybe you want to go into advertising or something. Maybe that's the route. And so that's what the catcher was for me. So I was like, all right, if I can do marketing, a major in marketing, I'll do a business degree. So that's what I did.
Yeah. I had
But then,
a business professor that said something similar. It was business 101. And first day he just said, look, everything is business, everything. Like
right.
you might be coming in expecting to learn something, specific, but everywhere you turn, there's gonna be business involved with how you do everything. So it
Hmm.
can be looked at as kind of a general like a general major, but if you go into it like you did with the mindset of a creatively solving problems, then it becomes a valuable major. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, great point. And I mean, my father was so determined to help us get on this path of hopefully, prosperity and a good life. And so even like my sister, we're only 20 months apart. And so even growing up, people thought we were twins.
Right.
And my mom would dress me in blue and her in the same outfit in red when we were kids. And then with my father, it was like, well, your sister's going to go to business school. I think you should go to business school. And so we both ended up going to the same program.
Right.
So that was kind of dictated for me in a sense.
Okay.
Um, and then getting out of school, realizing like I don't know what I want to do, and I ended up working for one of the biggest fashion houses in Montreal,
Right.
and absolutely loved working for them. It was my first very big start.
Mhm.
And then I ended up getting laid off like a year, just over a year from that job. And I was kind of devastated. It was, something I wanted to do. I thought maybe one day I would design handbags and like always thinking of like, what can I create?
Right.
And then
You were like you were a designer for them?
I was not a designer by any means. No, I was just an administrative first in accounting, and then they brought me into their retail side.
Right.
Yes.
For
So
business stuff though. It wasn't like you were actually being the designer for clothes or anything like that.
not at all, not at all. No, I did a little bit of modeling for them, and then they were like, "Oh, our retail team needs support and help, retail and wholesale." So I ended up starting to work with their manager for that, and then I was like basically helping select clothes to go into our boutiques,
I got you.
so like merchants. Um, yeah, so it was, a lot of fun at that time. And then I really didn't know again what I wanted to do, where I was going to go, where's this going to take me. And I ended up taking this typing course because I thought I needed to brush up on my typing skills. So for those in the audience that don't know about typewriters and when computers first came out,
Hmm.
right? We all didn't really know how to type properly. So anyways, I took a little typing thing and they put me on an internship at a financial brokerage,
Hmm.
private financial brokerage house. And I ended up working there for 5 years as an assistant to a financial planner. And I thought, oh, maybe I could be a stockbroker. And they said, oh, maybe you should take the courses and actually get certified as a financial planner. But I decided against it. I realized it wasn't really like pulling on my passion strings, so to
Okay.
speak. So I ended up leaving that and going into technology. But long story short, I thought technology was cool because it was innovative. It was always ahead of the time. But I stayed there 3 years, and then I decided to fully move away from Montreal and completely change my life and transform it. Well, transform it. It didn't fully transform for a few years, but I ended up moving here and I started to follow my passions over what people were telling me or what I thought industry was going to make me rich or any of that. And I ended up, well, when I worked at the technology company, I ended up falling into sales. And believe it or not, even though my dad was all business, 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 he told me, do not go in sales. It will eat you up.
Wow.
Yes, it's so stressful. And he didn't want me to go into sales, but I said, I actually like it. I like connecting with people. I like talking with people. I like showcasing product. I like, sharing new innovations. And
Mhm.
so I stuck with it. So pretty much long story short, when I got to Vancouver, I started again, just focused working in sales. And I've been in sales now for 20 years, sales and business development. And I feel like it gives me both the business side that my brain likes to work in sometimes, but I also get this creativity from, thinking of new solutions with clients, building new strategies for brands or businesses. So it really sort of met both things that I feel like I need as a person, is, to stay motivated and inspired.
Well, your father's not alone in his kind of his skepticism, I should say, when it comes to sales. That's really common for a lot of people. Sales, there's this aura out there that sales is a bad thing. And I've been on record so many different times on the show talking about, if you learn sales, it's a force multiplier. You learn how to
Mm.
communicate with people. You learn how to make it so you're able to articulate your point, articulate your services, articulate whatever product or whatever it is you're selling that's actually going to be the solution for a person. And you genuinely have to believe in it. If you're going to be in sales, I remember some of the best advice I've ever gotten is back when I have a ton of sales stories too, but the first one
Mm.
I ever got was when I was selling memberships at a gym, and the manager pulled me in. He goes, "Look, you need to be laid back, but you also need to know when to jump out of it and make sure people know when they need a certain thing." So
Right.
you're able to learn yourself in that regard. And the question I actually have for you is, when you decided that sales was going to be kind of the where you plant your flag, how did you deal with I'm sure, the countless rejection, the amount of, look, I'm not interested. Like, how were you able to sustain when that rejection came and it comes in abundance? And I'm telling you listeners now, if you do want to get in sales, you just better have some alligator skin, because that's what it's going to take. It takes some dealing with some rejection. But if you can
Yeah.
past it, it's the best thing you can learn. So I'll let you kind of talk a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly just touch on the whole, like, my father's
Mhm.
dislike or distaste for sales was, remember, he's coming from very old school
Let's
time
go.
where it was like the salesman that had the snake oil in his coat, right? Like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
very,
that's what.
very,
And then the thing is, you had mentioned he was blue collar worker. He was the one, and
yes,
didn't depend on no college degree or anything like that. And he's raising two girls, so now that snake or that salesman, there's a protective thing when it comes to
yes,
sales. And I understand completely. So it is
yeah,
important that as people that get into sales know that going in, so you're ready. You got your kind of got your arms up, your hands up, ready to do what it is you have to do to sell what you need to sell.
yes. And it is very much like I'm raising these two girls, well, and a son, to be really respectful,
Mhm.
citizens of the world. And I don't want them to feel like they have to lie and cheat and whatever to get like the next dollar, right? So,
Exactly.
so I kind of get his perspective on it. But to go back to your question, I think for me it was really about sorry, you had asked me like how did I deal with rejection and all that? Well, it's hard for sure. I mean, think about it. People who have lost their job or laid off or whatever, that's kind of rejection. So, if you're stepping into sales and you've been through something like that, guess what? You've already been through some rejection and you survived it, right? So, take that as a note of confidence that you can get through anything.
Now,
I
what
think
did you initially start out selling?
so I started selling when I was in the technology company. And to be honest, it was my first real sales job outside of retail. So I did retail when I was in college.
Okay.
Yeah, so I already like worked the retail floor before, but this was a whole different ball game. This is dealing with very large American. It was my clients were American, and to be honest, I failed. I did not do very well, but I also had no mentor. I was thrown in and thrown in, I think being thrown into something is actually good sometimes, right? Because,
That's
it's
it.
the survival of the fittest and you learn how to deal with so much more than if you're constantly told how to do something. So, and I'm someone who definitely learns things the hard way. So I thought I could handle it. But I just didn't have the skill set yet on how to form the proper conversations. So how I got these clients was that I actually started the customer service department for this technology division. When I started there, they didn't have one. I offered and pitched it,
Mm.
built the customer service team, and then realized, hey, I'm really good with the customers, and there was an opportunity. So they said, okay, let's put you in because the customers love you. Well, they love me as a customer service person, but I don't know
I
that they
pause
love
you
me as
there
the sales.
because I want to make sure I can't let this point that you're making get brushed over.
Ah, what's that?
sold the idea to the boss to create a customer service department. Okay, so sales isn't necessarily between you and a specific customer. Sometimes it can be within your own organization that this ability to sell a specific service and you be the person that say, hey, I'm going to pitch this idea to create this service. That's also a skill. And so you're going to need it. And even if you're not necessarily that person that's going door to door and say, can you buy this? Can you buy this? Sometimes within your organization, you may just see a need. You have to pitch it to somebody. All that involves sales as well. And that's an excellent point. Is I don't know if you've ever if you ever thought about it like that, but that's a great
Yeah.
too, because the people that are working in organizations, sometimes they could feel very comfortable in their salary. But as you've experienced, hey, you're kind of on the chopping block. And if you're not selling something, if you're not at least in a situation where you're filling a need in your organization, guess what? You could wake up one day and say, look, we don't need you anymore. You have to fill,
Mhm.
even if it's in your own organization. So I
Yeah.
had to make sure I made that point because I think that that's important as well.
Well, that's a really good point. And also to what you just said about when people start getting comfortable in an organization, sometimes people think, well, this organization has been around for so long, so they know what they're doing. So why should I pitch a new department or a new level in a department when I feel like I trust that they know what they're doing because they've been doing it longer than me? But honestly, I say have a voice, speak up. You never know. People get so siloed in what they're doing that they don't see a bigger periphery. And if you can bring something to their attention that might make them realize that it could be beneficial to their business, then go for it. And there's nothing wrong. You don't fail for opening your mouth.
Yes.
You don't fail for putting an idea on the table.
Okay.
And even if it's shot down, you didn't fail. You actually made it to the table and you were brave enough to say something. So,
Right.
yes, wherever you can add
And we are
initiative.
seeing, hey, listen, I'm listening just as long as you are. We are seeing exactly why the name of her company is Fearless Future. Preach on, Catherine. Preach it. You're talking it 1000%. All right. So, all right, you're
Yeah.
developing, you're understanding, you're finding a home in the sales world. Talk to us a little bit about when you decided, look, I'm going to start doing this stuff on my own because I have the confidence and I know I have the ability to do it.
Well, here, I'll tell you a story that
Okay.
really this is kind of the basis of when I realized like I like to do things my way. Like all of us have a certain way of doing things. But with sales in particular, going from like the advice of my father coming from his experience, because we all talk from our experience, right? His experience of the old school way of sales, like I said, the snake oil or whatever. I'm someone who is very I love connection. I
Mhm.
love those good conversations, the good banter. I don't like just one
Couple
even though
shots.
I'm known to talk a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't just like to talk, 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 talk. Like I love the back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, when I was in that technology sales role, I realized that I was just doing that, having conversations, but I didn't really know how to close sales or anything properly. Although I was successful to an extent. But what had happened is they hired a consultant to come into the business. And
Mhm.
the consultant obviously had a very big mandate and there was certain pressure on him. And his way was his way or the highway.
Mhm.
And he was very much I'll call it cheesy, sleazy sales approach,
Right.
right? Which I felt was very aggressive. And when you are desperate, like desperation can be smelt a mile away. Usually those are the salespeople that you stay away because they'll just sell anything for the sake of selling something, right? Whereas I wanted to sell something from a place of connection. I wanted to sell something because I cared about the customer and cared about their needs.
Yeah.
And this guy didn't seem to have that. And he had told me to do something with one of my top clients, and it didn't sit well with me, and I didn't want to do it. And I ended up doing it, and that's what cost me my job.
My God.
Yes. And so, long story short, I ended up getting laid off and I moved on. And like I said, at that time, I really took a couple of years to go, what do I really want to do? And I ended up moving or not a couple of years, sorry, it was the summer. And I realized like I wanted to leave Montreal. But to my point about that situation is when I came to Vancouver, which is where I live now, and I've lived here for about 20 years now, I had always said to myself, if I'm going to continue on the sales path, I'm going to do it my way. And not to mean that I'm not flexible and I'm not coachable or whatever, but meaning that I know that there's a different way to do sales
Yeah.
than being sleazy and selling something just for the sake of the dollar.
Right.
because you can still sell something even if you don't know if it absolutely supports someone's full need. But there's an inch of it that does. There's a way to actually fulfill it, and still sell from a place of need without selling someone something for absolutely no reason. So the things I guess maybe would help like this audience is understanding, like, if you're in sales, ask yourself why you're in it. For
Mhm.
me, it was about connection. It was about solving people's issues. It was about helping people through challenge. It was about helping people make money, believe it or not, because a lot of the business that I've been on in sales has been business to business. So we're helping other businesses make money. Um, so really consider those questions, like, why am I doing it? What is it that drives me in sales? And if it is the dollar, great. But how do you do it still from a place of compassion and a place of passion and a place of authenticity?
Right.
So
And
for me now, it's about I can only ever sell something that I truly feel I can get behind, or that I feel is valuable to my clients.
right. And the thing is, I when you first told me that about the the person that was telling you to do something you didn't want to do, there was a sense of kind of feel some grief for you. But the more you were talking, I realized it's more of a congratulations, right?
Ah,
It's
thank you.
yeah, I have to congratulate you because a lot of people, and myself included, I've experienced situations where there have been people who are selling. I mean, my first manager at LA Fitness, he's driving around a sports car. I mean, living the life. He would tell us all the time. By 26, I was making six figures. I was doing this. But when I'm a real fitness athletics guy. When I sat down with someone, I'm about to sell them a membership, and they tell me, hey, I might need surgery, and he comes in and says, oh, you don't need surgery. You don't need a surgery, just to sell a gym membership. These are the little things where you realize, hey, sales is not necessarily a bad thing. It's certain people who are money hungry and they'll make profits over people. They'll do whatever they have to do to make the numbers look good. Those are the people calling themselves salesmen. So the way it's being communicated to the masses, the way it's being communicated to the kids is it's these people that just want your money. That is not sales. Sales is actually people that have a heart, are genuinely interested in helping somebody else. But it takes going through what you went through, what I've lived through, that says, hey, I'm not going to sell anything I don't believe in. Period. Point.
Hmm.
That's where I draw the line. That's so very valuable in terms of how you learned it, and it's our role, in my opinion. Every whether it's life coaches, every entrepreneur, the people I bring on the show, it's our role to teach as many people as possible this reality because the world needs. As you see, as you have gone through, things are going remote now. People can get in touch. I'm in Florida. You're in Canada. We can have conversation. We can talk.
Yeah.
Like we've known each other for years. If you don't have that ability to effectively communicate and sell whatever it is you're trying to sell, you're lagging behind. You are lagging behind.
Yeah.
I do want
Yeah.
to be very respectful of your time. Can you just talk a little bit about, what exactly Fearless with Future is, what's next, how people can get in touch with you, and how exactly do you help any business owner now that may be listening?
Sure. Well, really quick, just to wrap up this whole sales career, where the real transition happened for me in understanding why I was attracted to sales, or what was pulling me to sales, was purpose.
Like,
And although this has
who
now
are they calling
become,
it? Come on now, say it to him, Catherine. See,
yes,
I get excited when people really start talking about purpose, man. Purpose over profits, man. You talk
yes.
now.
Yes,
Oh,
and
God.
so for me, it was always the word connection that came up. But when I came to Vancouver 2 years in or 3 years in, I ended up finding a brand that was deep rooted in purpose.
Oh,
And I spent 11 years with them. I never thought I would be with a brand for 11 years. And this is not to like plug them
one
in or
brand.
promote them. Sorry?
Just one brand for 11 years.
Yeah, there's one brand. And I like I said, I never thought I would ever be with a company, because when you come out of school, you learn like, oh, you should switch jobs every 3, 4 years, or
Yeah, yeah.
and keep developing and keep moving on. But I had the ability to develop with them because they were only 15 years in, and they were still new, still trying to figure stuff out. Um, but they were so deep rooted in purpose and their passion and their mission. Their mission was to reduce plastic in the world, and it was through their clothing.
Mm,
And they are one of the cleanest clothing companies in the world. So as I said, this isn't to like plug them. I'm not even going to say their name, but they they brought to me kind of that missing piece of like, what more besides connection is it that drives me for sales? And it was the purpose piece. And then of course, purpose, especially just before the pandemic, even during the pandemic, became a really big buzzword, like organics, right? But purpose for me meant that you're right. Like I'm not just selling for connection, but I'm selling for a real purpose. There's a real mission. And so what happened during COVID is that our office was closed in Canada. We were the head office for North America. But because we were bought by a US brand, the brand was originally from another country. We got bought by a US brand that moved us down to Colorado. And none of us from our office ended up going. And at that period in time, I looked back at my life and said, what have I always enjoyed and loved? And it was helping people, it was connecting with people. It was, like I said, the wasted potential when I first came on here. Um, and how can I bring this all together? And I had had a life coach, mind you, she wasn't the right one for me, although she was good, quite a few years ago. And I thought, well, coaching sounds like a really cool place because even in sales, you're doing a lot of coaching sometimes with your clients. And I decided to get certified. So I'm certified as a transformational life coach. But because I have 20 years of experience in sales and business development, I decided my purpose is to combine those and help others live a really fulfilling life through purpose and intention. But I focus it on helping entrepreneurs and business leaders build that in their life, but also their business. So Fearless Future empowers entrepreneurs and business leaders to live in their power. So giving them that confidence and resilience to do what they dream of doing, but to lead with purpose-driven business strategies to start and grow their business.
Well, I'm happy you didn't say the brand's name. You only said the mission, because for anyone listening, and it actually even helps, including myself, you guys spend so much time on the logo, on the name, and trying to get the website right. If you would just focus on mission, you will attract the right people. The hardest thing to do in any organization is getting the people right. And it's because too often do you spend so much time on the exterior things that people normally look at when they try to get in the business. If you would just focus on the mission, like you said, removing plastic from clothing, that's going to attract who you need to attract, and then you're able to grow with however it is you're going to grow. That should be the mission. So focus on your mission, focus on doing something. I like to use the term philanthropic, even if you're not necessarily a philanthropist per se, but just fix a damn problem. That's it. Fix a problem.
Right.
Fix a problem, and then really work your ass off to figure out how you can fix that problem the best way.
And when you lead with that type of mission and that purpose, you really are more able to say, when we talked about being resilient in sales and hearing
Right.
the no so often, what leading with purpose really helps you do is go, it's okay that I'm not for everybody, but I'm for this group,
Yes. Yes.
whether it's people, whether it's businesses,
Yeah.
whoever it is that your target audience is. It really helps you. And it also helps you save a lot of time and believe it or not, money, by being able to also say no to those that don't align, whether it's partnerships, whether it's, affiliates, things like that, that people come and request from you. It's much easier for you to say no when you're very clear on what your purpose is and who this is going to be valuable for.
1000%, 1000%. And what is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they would like to hear more or reach out?
My website is my name, so catherinemccourt.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Catherine L. McCourt and LinkedIn under my name.
Okay, gotcha. And we will make sure we include all that in the show notes as well. So, Catherine, this has been absolutely incredible. The final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are, say, what, 21 years old, you just got laid off, and you decide you're gonna move, you're going through this. I don't know how far the drive was from to get to Vancouver from Montreal, but you're just going through it, and you're really actually really rethinking. Pretend that version of Catherine has come into the Zoom room. Give her some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
I would say if you're dealing with something like a layoff, first and foremost, think of that as that has now given you time to focus on the next path, the next chapter, something that might be more right for you. So maybe it sounds cliche, but it things happen for a reason, and it might be time, and something is telling you it's time to evolve, to change, to pursue something different. Don't be afraid of change. This is, well, my company is called Fearless Future for those people that I felt were well, those people. It's also for myself. There's certain things that I've wanted to do in my life that maybe I didn't do because I feared not having the right knowledge or any of that. So I would say try to fear less. And a good way to do that is just look at the facts. When you think about the facts, like what's the worst that's going to happen if you try something? It might not work out, but it means that then you've already satisfied it in your mind. You know it's not going to work out, and you can move on to other things that potentially will.
1000% have absolutely nothing to add to that. Just go out and just do the damn thing because change is the only thing that is actually inevitable. So, all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.